"We're so proud that you finally graduated, son," his mom said, beaming at Mark. "We wouldn't have expected anything less of you," his father added. Mark grinned at his parents. He'd put in 4 long, grueling years, and he now had his college degree. He had a job lined up, and the woman he loved was at his side. The waiter came to the table. "We're still waiting for some people," Mark told her. His mom looked toward the door, a frown on her lips. He could almost read her thoughts. She was worried that something happened to his brother and his wife. But Mark stopped himself from reminding her that Ben was never reliable. They waited for another 10 minutes. "You know what? Let's eat," he said. "Ben and Cecile can order their dinner when they get here." Their meals had just arrived when Ben and his wife joined them. "Sorry we're late," he said. "You're always late," Mark said. But Ben ignored his remark. "So, you finally graduated," he said. "It's about time." He let out a loud laugh and slapped him on the back. Mark hid his annoyance and kept his tone civil. "Well, now that I'm finished school, when am I getting that plane ticket to France?" he asked. "Ha ha, you're such a funny guy," Ben said. "You're the one who offered the ticket," Mark said, blinking in confusion. But his brother ignored him. He turned to their parents and grinned. "Cecile and I are having a baby," he announced. Their parents were shocked, but then they immediately gushed over the news. Meanwhile, Mark clenched his fist underneath the table. It wasn't that the news upset him. He had nothing against his future niece or nephew. It was how his brother once again usurped the attention and made everything all about him. Mark caught his girlfriend's gaze. Denise was the best thing that had happened to him, and she knew him well enough to sense that something was off. She reached over and held his hand. "Forget it," she whispered. "We'll pay for the trip on our own." The two of them went on their trip and had a blast. Mark decided not to interact with Ben for several months afterward. He was busy with his own life. He'd gotten a good job, and his love for Denise was stronger than ever. It was only a matter of time before he would ask her to marry him. But before he did that, he needed to secure a home for them. He dialed up Ben's number. His brother was surprised to hear from him and began his usual small talk. His charm might have worked on other people, but Mark was immune to his tactics. "Listen, Ben, I need that money I loaned you." He told him about his plans. Ben was silent for a moment. "I can't pay you back right now." Mark felt his heart drop to the floor. "What do you mean you can't pay me back?" he demanded. "I loaned you $5,000 4 years ago. That was all my savings. I even have the contract you signed." "What do you want me to do?" Ben said, his tone defensive. "I don't have the money, all right?" Anger filled Mark's chest, and he hung up on his brother. He hated borrowing money from anyone, but he had no choice but to appeal to his parents. Fortunately, his parents loaned him the money for the down payment. And since he managed to secure the house, the next natural step was to pop the question to his longtime girlfriend. They took a year to plan the wedding, but they looked forward to spending the rest of their lives together. On their big day, Ben made a fool of himself at the wedding. Mark was livid. He approached his brother after the ceremony. "What's your problem?" he demanded. "My problem? You're the problem," his brother said, his speech slurring. "I'm the older brother, you know, and I'm the one who's supposed to be successful, not you." Ben's drunken words triggered Mark. All at once, the years of lies and disappointments came to the surface. A blinding rage overtook him, and before he knew it, he drew back his fist and punched his brother. Ben lost his balance and fell against the table. Mark stared down at his brother as several people rushed over. "What's happening?" their father asked. Their mother and Ben's wife bent to help Ben up. "Get him out of here," Mark said, his voice shaking. Don't be so drastic, their mother pleaded as she looked anxiously at the shocked guests. Just make peace with your brother and we could get back to celebrating. But Mark refused to budge. A year after his marriage, he and Denise moved to a different state. And as a result, his contact with his family dwindled to almost nothing. His brother tried reaching out to him over the years, but Mark was steadfast in his resolve. Even after their parents died, he continued to keep his distance. One day he received a call from his cousin George. He was told that Ben was depressed. His wife had kicked him out, and at the moment he was staying with their cousin. "Can you maybe talk to him?" George asked. "I'll think about it," Mark said. The call ended, and he recounted the situation to his wife. But when he thought about Ben, he felt the old resentment rise to his chest. The troubles from the past weighed on him, and he had difficulty sleeping. On the third sleepless night, he finally got up and went to his backyard. The moon was out, and as he sat alone, he felt as if he was the only person awake in the world. After a while, the door opened, and Denise walked out. "Come back to bed, Mark," she said. He shook his head. "I can't sleep." She sat beside him. "You have to forgive him, Mark. All that stuff in the past, you need to let it go." "I don't want to," he said stubbornly. He continued to look out into the empty yard. "You know, you've suffered enough holding this anger," she said. When he stayed silent, she sighed in defeat and went back inside. But when he was alone again, his wife's words continued to echo in his head. The grudges against Ben had hurt Mark more than he realized. He had missed out on building a meaningful relationship with his niece. And in the last 9 years, he barely visited his parents before they died. The sun started to rise, and he knew what he needed to do. When the time was appropriate, he called up his brother. "We need to talk," he said when Ben answered. Indeed, they had a lot to talk about. Ben was a flawed person, but Mark still cared for him. And even though he couldn't forget the terrible treatment he received, he knew that he didn't have to forget. He just needed to forgive. And if he did this, he could finally end his suffering and let go of the past. What did you guys think of the story? Please comment in the comment section below. I can't wait to read your answers and discussions. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe to get the latest stories to warm your heart. Until next time, bye.